Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. This video is part 3 of our how to build elevated track, and in this video we're going to show you how to build out the terrain and kind of give you an idea of this DIY system that we've been using. So in the previous video I showed you how to do the calculations, how to build and cut up these wooden track supports and how to glue them in place and so on. So hopefully now it's a little bit evident as to why I was doing that. You can see I've shoved the polystyrene blocks in between the track supports, and so you can see there that the idea is that the track supports will actually keep the terrain in there pretty nicely. In terms of terrain, I've been using very simple offcuts from polystyrene packaging. These are from like IKEA furniture, various furniture from Walmart, furniture from Wayfair and stuff like that. So anytime I bought furniture and or any kind of thing that had any kind of major packing, I sort of just saved the packing material. So had quite a lot of this sitting around for a while, but now it's going to pay off. You can see down about here somewhere, it does actually fit quite nicely in between there. And just simply cut it into place and then chisel away at it to make it look like terrain. One of the things with this section of the track is that there's very little clearance between this track and the wall. Originally, this section of the track was never designed to have an elevated track behind it. It was designed to have some scenics behind it, or maybe a line that ran to the power station that's over here. So instead I sort of measured it out, did a lot of checking and some double checking of my calculations, but it does actually fit. So this is the third rail line. It's going to come all the way up here, up to an elevated track section, and then over into a station. And so we're going to have another kind of set of track above here somewhere, and it'll look pretty neat. So getting on to building the terrain today. So what you're going to need is some polystyrene, like this, and so far I've used like maybe 4 or 5 blocks of this, so it's not too big deal. You know, come with big lengths for a desk or something like that. Tool wise, it's pretty simple. I'm using a Swiss Army knife. You could use any kind of knife. Kitchen knife might be easier if you're a younger kid. Obviously you should check with your parents before you use any kind of knife or anything like that on your model railway. But just remember, if you are using a Swiss Army knife, not to fold the blade inwards on your hand. Remember, it does switch in like that, so if I do any cutting, I'm making sure my hand isn't down here so I can cut away at various things. In terms of chiseling away, you simply just take the blade and cut sections out, and then I usually take the blade and basically scrape it like this. And it's probably going to kill people who don't like the sound, but basically you can see there, it creates sort of rock face on that, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again. Obviously, the biggest problem you're going to have is you hate that sound. You may not want to do this. Maybe get a set of headphones or something like that and turn up the volume to max while you're doing it. In terms of a mess, you can see there's a bit of a mess here, but not quite as big of a mess as you've seen probably some other folks doing this. The reason for that is I cut up a lot of the polystyrene. If you see the way down the end there, it's an Amazon box, and I simply put the polystyrene in it and cut up the sections, and then the only bits that you see here are from basically me scraping away. So one thing I did have a problem with was this section is quite narrow, so obviously the train's coming in here. There's not much room for kind of a gradual hillside or anything like that, so this is kind of going to need to be more of a almost like cliffside or kind of steep hillside. So it took quite a while to find some stuff that was similar. Wanted to get something prototypical, so I did find bunch of Dawlish trains. Obviously that's on the coast and there's a cliffs, but kind of gives you an idea. I found some other places as well. One thing that was interesting was I found this network rail, which got some polystyrene on it, but basically it shows you the whole kind of cliff face by the rail where they're doing the repairs out there by the Dawlish line. So stuff like this was handy just to kind of get the idea of how it would look naturally. I did find some other stuff from inside Britain that wasn't on the coast, so it's going to be prototypical, so I was quite happy with that. And one of my concerns was obviously this is not a coast side or like a coastline or anything like that, so I wanted to make it look reasonably good and realistic. A lot of American stuff had plenty of examples, but it was kind of hard to find some that were in Britain. One of the other things that I did notice was that this particular section that goes down through here is we're going to make sure that the trains don't hit the side of the cliff or anything like that. So what I've done is I've basically chiseled away a little bit inside as the track was going down, so kind of widens the clearance. So a lot of the track is wider at the top, and the hillside kind of goes in like this, and some of them go this way. So it's just sort of a natural kind of mix. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to continue doing this and show you guys how it's done. But first of all, I'm going to clean up this mess here. Obviously, it can get pretty messy, and since I have a big, 14-15 foot section to do, I don't want to have just one big mess at the end. Now, before I clean this up though, what we're going to do once this is all done, I'm quite happy with it, and we've checked the clearances and we've checked the elevated track placement back on top, is we're going to cover it with Winston Scenics plaster cloth. We've got a couple of bags of this, so it's easy to apply, non-toxic, and you just basically unroll it, cut it into strips. I'm going to make sure that they run from the back seam here to the ground. I obviously don't have much room here, so I'm going to have to make sure the measurements are pretty exact, and hopefully we'll get that in place. So these just basically dip them in water and put them on there, and it'll look pretty good. If you're wondering why I didn't just leave the plaster cloth or the polystyrene flat, it's because the plaster cloth will actually pick up the contours and the terrain. So by doing this to the actual polystyrene, it's going to create a more natural kind of looking back to it. And if you look at some of the photos here, you can see it's sort of well and truly kind of random, so it should be pretty good. So in terms of cleaning up, one of the two problems you're going to have is obviously you can see here it's sticking to me, it's static. You have two things you're going to need to vacuum up the parts here, but also we've got some on the back seam. To get off the back seam, I'm just using this cheap pound store or Dollar Tree is where I got it here in the States. Paintbrush, I got pack of 3 or something for $1, and all you're going to do is just simply brush it off the back seam like so, and you should be able to just pack it in the bottom there and maybe vacuum it up or whatever you want to do later. But trick is to make sure you just try to get as much off as you can. And you can see there, it doesn't actually stick to the paintbrush, which is kind of handy. At least not too much. And so you can just use that to sort of get it out of things like points and stuff as well. So to get rid of most of it, I'm going to go and vacuum it up. So to vacuum it up, I'm using this hand vac. I got it at Lowe's. It's Black & Decker, and it was like $14 or something like that. So it was dirt cheap. In fact, I think they were on sale over Christmas for about $10. So hopefully this isn't too loud, but just give you a quick demonstration. Might want to make sure it doesn't exhaust that valve. So I'm starting over here on one side with there's none behind it, and this is just preventing the airflow from the back of this from blowing polystyrene bits everywhere. You can see there, this is working pretty well. You obviously don't want to vacuum up your stuff. And obviously you don't want to get any polystyrene pieces because they're pretty small into the trains, so you want to make sure you get all of the polystyrene parts out. Now I bought this specifically for the layout. You may get yourself in some trouble if you use your wife's vacuum cleaner. Probably not a good idea. So I bought this for about, like I said, under 15 bucks. It's a good investment. I can just charge it. It's a lithium ion base, just plug it in. It's pretty handy. So what I'm going to go and finish vacuuming this mess up and making sure I didn't make a bigger mess by blowing anything anywhere else. And then we'll get on to the next section. Alright, so one problem you can run into is some of the polystyrene pieces can get into the track right here, especially in the point work. So you may have to use something like I'm using the knife here, but if you're not confident with using the knife and you don't want to damage your track, you can always use like a paper clip or something like that. We can see here the vacuum is actually cleaned out this pretty well. So I need to maybe vacuum out the side here a little bit, but it's looking in pretty good shape. So like I said, what we're going to do next is just going to continue this all the way down. When I get towards the corner there, I'll actually demonstrate how I'm doing this. But for now, I'm going to go and get back to it. Just to give you an idea, this section that you're looking at here took about an hour to do, and give or take about 5 minutes. So obviously I was got the camera stuff and set up as well, but it took about an hour. Okay, so you can see here what I've done is I've basically lined up the inside of the support here with the outside of the block, and I just simply take the knife here against the other one and just cut it a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is go put this inside the Amazon box and then cut it, and then we'll put it back in place. Alright, so I just kind of cut it with the Amazon box, inside the Amazon box, so I'm just going to go and shove it in place like that. Okay, and then what you do is you simply mark the top of that one, and the bottom of that one, and you sort of just do that, and I'm going to put that again in the Amazon box, cut it so I don't make too much mess, and then we'll... Okay, so you can see, put that in place. Now obviously it's not quite as smooth, there's a chunk sticking out of it here and whatnot, but we'll basically be able to smooth that off with the actual plaster cloth here in a little bit. I will probably use some offshots, just offcuts, just to sort of try to raise the train a little bit to make it easier, but it's pretty much easy to do. So what I've done, as you can see, I've cut this in place, and so now we want to create just some sort of face here. Now we want to make sure that it's not too close to the track, so I'm going to start like maybe here and just cut into it a little bit. Trying to leave is a little thicker around the track support so we don't get the straight pieces from the pillars and supports. It shouldn't be too bad. Then basically you can just I really hope this doesn't bother too many people, but you can cut into it in a few places and maybe just create some interesting formations. And like I said, you can use the pictures as a guide, and I'm going to probably sand this when it's done. I'm sure this is killing people. Otherwise, it doesn't bother me at all, which is a good thing, but I notice that my wife would be pretty annoyed by this video at this point. And then I cut out some more here, like so. And you know, you might want to do a more interesting formation on it. So cut some more out, so make it look a little more realistic. And you can basically do whatever you want. It doesn't look much like this, but like I said, once you sand it down and put the plaster cloth over it, it's going to look pretty decent. So I'm basically going to repeat this process, like I've already done on this section, all the way down on the rest of this. When I get to the corner, we're going to do actual kind of hillside, so I might do a separate video for that, but for this, we're going to continue this and we'll show you the end result at the end. Alright, so give us a second. Okay, so you can see here, we've got the hillside pretty much done. Just carved it out using various different components. Now what you will notice is that there are some gaps here and here and here. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to get a can of expanding foam. It's stuff for filling in the gaps around your windows and doors and stuff like that to kind of keep out drafts and things like that. But it's very good. It's kind of a liquid that expands into a type of foam, and then you can just simply cut it and shape it as you want. And another thing I did was I used some toothpicks. You can see here that each layer is done with like about an inch and a half thick piece of styrofoam here. So what we wanted to do was to try to keep it together so it was rigid and didn't just move around as the pieces fell apart. We wanted to keep the shape that we had formed. So it's pretty simple. All you need to do is just use a toothpick. And so what I've been doing is sort of like in the back here, if I lean over here, sort of just stick that in, and then take the back end of the pencil and just shove it down so it goes inside. And then that'll keep it a little bit more rigid, especially when you're maybe carving out the sides here and so on. So what I'm going to do next, and you can see here I used it to do the sides here as well. So I'm actually going to push this in so it doesn't impede the track, but it's handy for keeping those pieces together. Over here, if I move the camera around slightly, over here where the slope starts and goes up this way, I've kind of just glued down where I want the edge of it to be, and I again used some toothpicks. The pointed toothpicks actually can be used to overlap, so on the pointed ends you can just take it and overlap it like so, and just a bit of glue will keep it together. So those have been put in place. I'm going to glue them, and then what I'm going to do is basically take the expanding foam, just spray a very light amount in here up against the wall and through the back here, back through here into gaps, and then you see here I've drawn a pencil mark, and that's where I want the actual slope to kind of finish off. So I'm going to cover this with the expanding foam around there as well. If I pan the camera around, you should be able to see the rest of the wall. As you can see here, we have some gaps along the way where the supports are. I'm going to mark the gaps where the supports are using a pencil, so I'm probably going to do something like this with an arrow, just so I know where they are, and then I'm going to basically fill these in with the spray expanding foam as well. So the expanding stuff we used was just cheap. I think it was like on sale at Walmart for $2.50, but you can use any kind of insulating expanding foam, and it comes off pretty easily. It's just a hard substance, and you can use it for molding, cutting, whatever. So there are a couple of places where it's on the track here, so I'm going to give you an example of how to cut that off, and then in part 4 we'll show you how to do the plaster cloth. Alright. Okay, so you can see here we've gone ahead and put the expanding foam into all the joints and so forth. It's taken a couple hours, but it's now rock solid. And we did get some on the track, but it's easily removed. It's better to wait till it's solid to remove it. You can see here if I just take the knife and cut into it, it'll come pretty easily off the track and whatever else it's attached to, like so. You may have some residue. It usually comes off with your finger or track eraser if you need to do that. So what I'm going to do next is basically go through and cut this and test the clearances with a coat to make sure it's okay, and I'm going to get ready to basically put plaster cloth on all of this. One thing I am going to do is, since we're putting track on the top, before I put the plaster cloth down, I am going to cut some lengths of cardboard just so it's a flat surface before I put the plaster cloth over the top of it. I may just use some paper or newspaper to cut the strips, just something to keep it flat. so it's easier to lay the track. Alright, so that's it for this video. I'm going to, like I said, cover this up with plaster cloth, and so you'll see that in the next video. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time.